Welcome to Real Talk with Gary. If you are listening to this show, that means you are either searching or ready to make a financial change in your life. This show is not only about real estate investing, but also the importance of mindset and the roadmap to a better, healthier life. Learn the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs and the latest market strategies and trends to stay ahead of the curve. Ready for some down-to-earth, north-of-the-border Canadian talk? Here's your host, Gary Hibbert.
All right, welcome. Listen, you are listening to Real Talk with Gary. And on today's show, we are talking with Ankur Puri. Now, before we jump right into it, if this is your first time listening to the show, then thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Now, this is my first ever podcast on iTunes. So I'm definitely excited about this. However, I've been doing this podcast now for over 4 years on YouTube. And I just finally decided, you know what, I think it's time to make the move into a broader audience. So definitely super excited about the transition. And I've also already have some great guests lined up for the year. So on this podcast, the reason why I do it is it's about education. You know, I'm big on education. I'm big on helping people with real estate investing and wealth creation and mindset and staying healthy. And the reason why is just because it's completely changed my entire life. And I think this is the best thing to do, is to share what I've learned and bring people onto the show that's actually helped me, or that I see doing incredibly well as well too. So please visit my website at smarthomechoice.ca, and there you can learn more about our upcoming events. And here's the one thing: when you do get there, do me a favor, enter your email address in, and I'm going to get you a free book on the Smart Guide to Real Estate Investing, one of the investing strategies that I really gravitated to in the beginning. And also a guide on how to screen tenants absolutely free. Okay, so you can get both those books free. Now, on our show this month, like I mentioned earlier, I had the chance to sit down and get a really good understanding of who Ankur is, his journey from India to Canada, and how he turned his early failures into massive success. One of the cool things with Ankur is he also had a chance to share the stage with legends like Kevin Harrington from the original Shark Tank, Raymond Aaron, and also Dr. Brown. And one of the really cool things too with Ankur is that, you know, we actually first crossed paths early in our investment careers, back in around 2010. And we were actually working on a deal together that really changed his life forever. Now, we didn't actually complete the deal together, but he ended up bringing in another investor, and really, that part of the podcast is my favorite part, because it shows how perseverance and hard work can really change your life forever. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this month's show, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, listen, so on the call today, we've got Ankur Puri. So, Ankur, thanks a lot for jumping on the call with me today. I appreciate it being on the show.
Thank you so much, Gary, for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. So, listen, you just came back from the land down under. You're down in Australia, right? How was that?
Yes. Oh my God. It's funny that you asked me that. Every day I'm getting emails and phone calls for the same thing. You know, it was the best place to be, especially if you want to escape the winters here. It's summers in Australia.
Right.
Best time to be there. And then guess what? I did skydiving.
That's incredible.
15,000 feet.
What,
yeah.
what made you decide to go up in that plane and jump?
It's good that you asked me that. To be honest with you, I'm actually scared of heights.
Okay.
And at the same time, I wanted to get over my fears.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to do that, I thought, what's the best I can do to get over that? And then I thought I can go to the top, the tallest building, and I can look downstairs. That would help. But then I said, you know what? That's still not that high. So let me just go somewhere and do something crazy that I will remember in my lifetime. So I said, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. And then, since I was there in Australia, so I said, you know what, this is the best time, and I'm already on vacation, so I'll do it. And it really actually helped me to overcome my fears of heights and everything. So
that's good. That's it. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you heard this quote before from Zig Ziglar. It says, fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So I chose the second one.
Yeah, I like that. And that makes a lot of sense. That, you know what? Before I actually left my job, there was two things that I did. So I did the CN Tower walk, and then I went down to Cuba, of all places, and jumped out of a plane as well too. But I did 10,000. I didn't go as high as 50. I did 10. And those two things didn't kill me. So I was like, okay, you know what? Leaving my job shouldn't kill me either. And that was, and again, it comes down to, I think, fear. And those were the two things that I was scared of heights. That was the one big thing. So, that's great that you did that. So listen, let's kind of just jump into who you are. If you can kind of maybe let the audience know, like, how you got into real estate investing, where you came from, and how it's working for you.
Okay. So I'm a strategic real estate investor, speaker, and a mentor.
Yeah.
What I do now is, I do a lot of flips, and I also mentor others to be real estate investors and how to do deals, no money down. That's my forte.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a bit about me. How did I got into real estate, and a little bit background story. So you know what I'm where I'm coming from and where I'm going. So I came to Canada around 8 years ago, and I came here on a student visa. So I was, I'm not sure if you know, but we as international students, we pay 4 times than what a regular student would pay here. So I was already having a huge debt, close to 50 grand when I landed in Canada to take care of my studies and, living expenses and everything. So I studied for 2 years, and then I worked in a restaurant, of close to minimum wage. And, as you know that even if you're a chef or even if you are a server, whatever, you don't really get paid too much, but it's a very demanding job. So anyways, I was doing that for a year, and then I told myself, if I keep on doing this, I would never be able to come out of the debt that I have. I would never be able to secure my own way, the way I want to live. And I'm not a 9-to-5 kind of guy anyway. So, I had this thing in my mind of getting into real estate, but I just didn't know what to do and how to go about it. So eventually I did my research. How we do is we go online, we try to see what's available and all those things. And I had a little bit of concept because when I was back in India, where I'm from, when I was a teenager, I used to read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And it really opened my mind, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I want to do this. And then I figured out in where I come from, we don't have certain rules, or I would say the rules are different, and the setup is different, so we can't do it there. So I had to do it either in Canada, US, or some other place. So I chose Canada, and then I came here and I studied and everything. But that thing since that time was always in my mind that I wanted to get into real estate. So then I started looking at different meetup groups, if there's any course available, is there anything I can do, and especially at that time because I didn't have money or experience or anything like that to actually pursue my dream. So I had to do it very creatively where I can still make money, but I don't really have to spend any money to do that, which is everyone's dream. I'm sure about that, but I was totally on it because I really had no other way of doing it. So, I got into a few courses, learned a little bit legalities, and then what is a no money down and what is an assignment, what is a wholesaling, what is fix and flip, what is this? So I got to know some concepts. And then after knowing that, I got totally into it. I said, I got to do more research. I got to learn more about this so I can do this myself. And apparently, after doing the courses and all those things, trying to do research and everything, I didn't really do much for a longer time because I was tied up with the job. And then, I did something really stupid, which I do not recommend anybody to do. One day I just went to my boss and I said, I quit. And he said, what? And then 3 days prior to that, what I did was, in my mind, I just created this world saying that I am an investor, that I'm flipping properties, that I'm very successful, and I don't need to do a job. I need to pursue my dream to get to the next level. So I already had that manifested in my mind. And that's how I started looking at myself as I'm really successful and all that. And that 2-3 days, what I did was I hardly slept. But then what I was doing is I was creating my website. I created my business cards and all those things. And when my boss asked me, so what are you going to do? I handed over him my business card and I said, I'm an investor and I flip properties.
Mm-hmm.
So he looks at me, looks at the card again. He looks at me, when did this happen? And I said, 2 days ago. Right. So he's
Right.
like, you're crazy. You know what you're doing, right? You know, this, like anybody can take over the job that you're doing. You know what you're doing. And I said, I totally get it. I said, I totally get it, Steve, but you know what? I got to do this. If I don't do this, this is what it is. If I continue this job, I won't be putting my 100%, which is not right for you and for the job. And it's not right for me. So I would rather let that go and pursue my dream. And I told him the worst thing is if I don't get anywhere, at least I can do a minimum paid job. That's what I love about Canada, right? So at least I get a minimum paid job. I can still sustain myself. So I have a backup plan.
Okay. So you quit. And then,
Yeah.
so prior to quitting, had you done a flip or a wholesale or anything at that point in time?
No, nothing. I had done really nothing. I had no idea about real estate. I was just doing research and all those things to understand a little bit how then things work and, what is to be honest with you, I was so naive that I didn't even know what is a drywall and how to put the house together. And the reason is because in India, we don't have drywalls. We have like concrete walls, with brick and cement. So we don't really have like a drywall inside the house either. So I had to literally learn that too.
That's incredible.
So what I would do is, because now I did not have the job, I would go to Home Depot, Lowe's, and all those stores, and I would go aisle to aisle for hours and try to understand what is this and what is that. And I remember asking one of the gentlemen there. I was looking at the drywall, and I was there standing there for 5 minutes, right? And then the guy comes like, "Hey, do you need some help? Like, are you looking for something specific?" And like me, as dumb I was at that time, I asked him, "So tell me this. I see this is a whiteboard. First of all, what is this used for? And why do you have 2-3 different colors? Why do you have a green and a blue? And what's going on here?" So then he explained me what is a drywall and why is it green and why is it different colors and fire rated and all that, mold resistant and stuff. So that's how I learned a lot of things, being ground on it, going and trying to understand things.
Right. So
that actually helped me shape up the way I understood things and helped me eventually when I was studying doing deals to understand what is what and how to go about things. So that really helped me actually. Yeah.
Right. So when did you do your first don't know if you remember this or not, but we had met and we were at a property. What deal was that? Do you remember? Because that was a deal in Scarborough.
I was about to tell you that. So this is what it is, Gary. So this is what actually happened now. For that deal that we met in Scarborough and Markham,
right?
That deal, the townhouse. If you remember, there was a couple. They have 2 small kids and everything, right?
I do.
So that deal was my first successful deal after failing numerous times.
Really?
And you won't believe it. And I'm sure that you wouldn't have not even noticed. But when I was doing that deal, I had only $98.25 in my account.
Wow.
That's it. I couldn't even go back home. And that was my only hope. And as you know, that deal really had no money in it, right? Mm-hmm. I'll give you the numbers. If you remember, I was getting it for $360 and the market value of the deal was $400. And that it needed almost $15,000 of repairs to actually bring that property up to the market value. So if you really do the numbers, if you buy it for $360, put 20 into it, you're at $380, you sell for $400 after paying the realtor and all the closing costs and everything, you're going to make a loss. It didn't really make sense. So I had to come up with a strategy that could help me, the seller, and also my end buyer. So what I did was I asked the seller if he wants to stay in the property, because he was paying around $2,500 at that time, and because he was on a private mortgage, so he had no money to even feed his kids properly, and he was going behind his mortgage payments and everything. So I told him if he can do $1,800 a month plus utilities, then I can have him live in the property for a year. And he said that would be incredible. If I can do that, he would thank me so much that he would love to do that, because that would save him $700 a month so that he can provide for his family. He'll be back to the normal, his credit score will increase and all those things. And the main thing is he won't have any debt of $360,000 on his head, right? So I said, that's great. So one thing was resolved that I know. I did my numbers at the back and I said, it doesn't really make sense. So then what I did was, as I was also showing you the property, and I guess, I think your buyer couldn't take it for whatever reason. So I had a few more buyers because I had, by that time, after failing so many times, honestly, I had created a list of so many buyers who were looking for properties in certain areas. So I got in touch with one of them and I told them, you know what, this is an amazing deal. You already have a renter from day one who's paying you $1,800 plus utilities, which means you have a great cash flow on this property. Plus, I'm going to give this property to you for $370,000. So you're going to get $30,000 below market, and you don't even have to pay any realtors, and you don't have to do any renovations until the guy moves out, because that was the deal I made with the seller. And seller was okay to live on it the way it is till the time he moves out. So this guy, he jumped on it. He said, that's a crazy amazing deal. I'm going to take it. So he jumped on it. He bought that property off me. And then that was the first deal when I actually made $10,000. Wow. And I still I have a picture of me with that $10,000, you know, and you should have seen the happiness in my eyes.
So
it was amazing.
So one of the things, I mean, I know if I was listening to this podcast and, you know, you said you had a list of investors, where are you finding these investors? And then what do you mean by creating a list? Like, where were you putting them?
Right. So what I did was, I have a landing page, right? So what I do is I have a landing page and, I have investors that I find through, let's say, online. You know, a lot of investors put their ads online, or also doing through network events. Like, for example, you have an amazing network event. So, you know, we get to meet so many amazing people over there who have the money, but they don't have the time to do the deals, or they have the money and expertise, but they don't have the time to find the deals, right? So that's where, I would come in and I would do the legwork and I would find deals. I would source the deals and I would, give it to them. So what I would do is I would ask those people to come on the landing page. And then once they put in the information, they will get a freebie from me, which is like a deal analyzer that I use to analyze all my deals. So they get something just to sign up on my list, right? And then whenever I would get any deals, I would send it to them. And then, and then, you know, one of them would eventually pick up the deal or stuff like that. So now I have, so many buyers and active investors on my list that whenever I send out anything, if it's, even if it's, you know, fix and flip where I want a partner, or even if I have a, you know, an assignment deal or a wholesale deal, it gets picked up within like a couple of hours maximum. It's already gone.
Right.
And
so
that is because of my track record. Yeah.
So the wholesale deals that you were doing, so obviously your first one was 10,000. So I assume, did you ever go below that 10,000 mark, or were all your wholesale deals at that and higher?
No, I honestly, I've never gone below 10,000. And the best part about wholesaling is, you know what? I choose what I want to make on the deal. So sometimes it's 15, sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 16, sometimes it's 17,500. Whatever I feel like, I put the number and it just works. And the reason it works is because what I look at is what is the other guy going to make? And if he's making substantial amount of profit, then I'm sure he doesn't care what I'm making on the deal, right? That's what it is. So that's how I was able to actually facilitate most of my deals, because the deals that I actually get, they are around 40 to 50 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. So it's just no brainer for anybody to jump on those deals, because you know what, they're going to make tons of money on it. So.
Right. Now, and where were you finding these deals? Were you looking online, like Kijiji?
So I have my website. Again, I have a lot of marketing tools. I got my website. I do online ads like Kijiji, Craigslist, and all that too.
Yep.
Then I have a lot of bird dogs who also work for me, which is pretty much working for me for free. They get me the deal, and then I give them a referral fee or finder's fee of, you know, $500,000. And then I get deals through that. And I also have a lot of realtors actually sending me deals. And because, in all these years that I've been doing it, I have a lot of realtors who send me deals exclusively because I have good relationship with them. So what happens is I get to pick and choose the ones that I need. And also through network events as well. Like, you know, when we go to, let's say, your network event or someone else's network event. In fact, I have my own event right now that I do mastermind and stuff like that, which I recently had on Saturday. So I get a lot of deals through that as well. And, so yeah, the deals are always there. It's just you need to be out there so that people know that you're the one who's going to be, who's supposed to be their choice. when
Yeah.
they're trying to change the deal and stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. So really, you've truly mastered the no money down. And I know a lot of people are always skeptical about being able to do that. And it sounds like what you've really focused on is relationship building. And I guess that's where the money's at, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. Because of the way I do my deals and the way I do my numbers, and I'm very diligent and all that. I'm not sure if I told you this, but in 3 years I've done around 18 deals, and my deals have netted over $1.2 million.
So in how long?
In 3 years,
in
I've
3
done
years.
over 18
Incredible.
deals. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I was recently also featured in the Real Estate Wealth magazine as an investor profile and a few other newspapers and stuff like that. So I guess at the end of the day, for me, it's very important that since it all these things, it inspires so many people, that I have so many people coming back and, how do you do it? Can we kind of learn from you and all that? And I'm like, for sure. And that's what I want to do at the end of the day, to help others to get to that level. I want to see other people being successful. So you know what? If I can do it, I believe anybody can do it, and that's all matters.
For sure.
So,
yeah, and you know what? And I've seen where you were. I've watched your progress. And I'm on your website right now taking a look at it. By the way, you're a handsome guy. I love that outfit. You look fantastic. But you know what though? But from your original website that you had to what you have now, it is showing the progress. Number one. Number two, you just shared the stage with somebody big, and I can't recall who it was. Who was it again? Was it?
I shared the stage with Kevin Harrington, the original Shark Tank.
Yes, that's right. That's right. How was that experience?
Oh my God, it was a dream come true. Honestly, I mean, I did a post on Facebook. It just came out of my head. I was like, I came to this country 8 years ago, and nobody knew me at that time. And today I'm sharing a stage with Kevin Harrington. And that was such an amazing experience. Like I think we were there for 2 days, and then we were in the same hotel and stuff. We had dinners and all that kind of stuff. Then the next day we were speaking together and all those things. But that guy is so amazing that, it's so simple. Like, I'm nobody in front of him. He's a billionaire, man. He had the time to come down, and then we had this opportunity to share the stage with him. That's one of a lifetime experience. And not just with Kevin Harrington. I've also been fortunate to share stages with Raymond Aaron and also Dr. Ona Brown, who's Les Brown's daughter.
Right.
So yeah.
Let me ask you this. What did you learn from him? Was there any, like, 1 or 2 tips that you can share?
Yes. Well, Kevin Harrington, to be honest with you, this is how it is. He's a very humble person. Mm-hmm. He has really helped so many people to come up with their businesses. And when we were having our dinner, that was only, with the speakers and everything. So we were actually discussing a lot of things about business and everything. And this is one thing that he said, which is really amazing. And what he said was, it doesn't matter what product you have, as far as it's going to help the other person to be a better, it could be any product, it could be anything that can help the other person to make their life easy and convenient. They will be more than happy to pay you. And I'll be the person to back up that product for you. And I will blast that product so crazy that you will be wondering that you will have to open a bigger factory to create that product, right? Mm-hmm. So all he was saying is, you got to come up with something that good that can help somebody, and I'm here to help you to do that.
So creating a win-win, essentially.
Yes.
Right? So something in it for you and also for the other person. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now let's kind of change gears a little bit. So people listen and they're like, okay, cool. So you came to the country about 8 years ago. You've made millions in real estate investing. And I've seen lots of people try to get into it and they don't succeed. What do you think is the biggest mistake that a lot of beginning wholesalers make?
Honestly speaking, I get a lot of calls from a lot of wholesalers, and they're trying to pitch their deals and all those things. And then I ask them a few questions about, what is this deal and what is the numbers, how you come up with your estimates and all those things. And what I find is most of the wholesalers who start up new, they have this fire that they want to do it. But the problem is they don't do their due diligence, or most of them, they don't have proper education to do it properly. Because most of the people that actually call and all those things, they have knowledge, but which is mostly US based. It's not really Canadian. And also when they do their numbers, they don't do it right. So what happens is, most of the time, I end up giving them wholesaling one-on-one on the call, though I don't know them, but I don't want anybody to fail. So I tell them, it's okay that you're calling me and I'm helping you out, but I just want you to understand that please do the things this way. So when you call somebody else, you don't, it should look like you're a professional, you know what you're doing. Otherwise, investors are very busy. They're not gonna, deal with you. They're not gonna teach you stuff. They're just going to say, I don't like it, and that's it. You're done with it, right? So
Right.
I think what the problem with the wholesalers nowadays is that they don't have proper education and they don't do their research properly when they try to pitch some deal.
Okay. Now, obviously there's a number of different strategies that you've implemented. Now, what about your joint ventures? Because I've seen, I'm on your distribution list. I've seen you send out your deals. When you first started, were they like a 75-25 split in regards to the funds, or were your investors always putting in all the money? Can you just kind of walk us through what a typical split looks like when you're partnering with Ankur?
Sure. So when I started, obviously, I didn't have much experience in all those things. So what I would do is I will tell them, if you invest all the money, which is 100%, and when I say 100%, that means buying the property, also the renovation cost, the carrying cost, everything, whatever is required for that property. So that comes from my investor, right? And then I will do all the work. So I will get all the work done. I will, find the property. I would put it under contract. I would get the contractors involved. I would get the work done. I will do all the designing. Basically everything apart from the money, I would take care. And then for that, I would give them 50% of my profit sharing. Right. Okay. So that's how I started in business, because I did not have any money to on the first place. So I had to give more so that I could sustain myself and also prove myself at the same time. So that was something that helped me to attract a lot of investors to invest with me. And again, it wasn't just because I was giving them 50%, but then the kind of deals that I was picking, I made sure that doesn't matter what happens, it will still come out clean. That's what's the bottom line, right? Because the first question the investor is going to ask you is, what if I lose the money? How do I recover that, right? And that's why, to make sure that we don't get to that level, I would always have the deals which are, 50% off the market price anyway. So I would tell them, even if the market crashes overnight, you're still going to make at least 10 grand. Are you okay with that? That's the bottom line, right? If you're okay with that, let's do this. But eventually, as you must have seen, my deals make over 100 grand. Each deal is making over 100 grand. So it was a no-brainer for anybody to actually jump on it. But as I progressed, now I do not give them 50-50, because now I get a lot more deals and I'm established, so I'm able to demand more. And then I tell them, I can give you between 25 to 35% profit margin on your money. And if you want to be my partner, then we can talk about it. So, and normally for every deal that I have at least 3 to 4 people ready with the checks, because they know what I do and how I do things. So, it's a no-brainer, at least at this stage, for me to do those.
So
and
when
again,
you say
all my deals are no money down, yeah.
Right. So in regards to 25 or 35%, you're talking about the total profits, correct?
Yeah, the total profit. So let's say if you made 100
Yep.
grand on a deal. So the guy who invested the money with me, he will get, say, 25,000 to 35,000 out of that net 100,000 of the profit.
That's incredible. I don't think I've ever heard. I usually see a 50-50. So wow. So you're really bringing that. You're really selling the experience that you've got. And your investors are obviously partnering with you. So that's good. So you've done an incredible job at obviously building your brand, right?
Yeah.
So
that's very
great.
important. That's what I've learned too, that you got to build your brand. Something also Kevin Harrington mentioned, that if you don't have a proper brand, then you may do the same job. But if you're branded, then people are going to pay you more just because they see you're more stable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, as you've seen me progressing, you see now have created a great brand, and that really has helped me to boost my morale and also the way people look at me and how I do my business as well. So.
Right. Now, were you brought up to be an entrepreneur? Like, were your parents entrepreneurs? Were maybe any of your family members? Like, why did you end up going down this road?
So, well, it's good that you asked me that, because nobody really asked me that before. But so my dad, he was into business, right? So he was into business, and we are 3 kids. And my mom, she was a housewife and everything. So my dad was a businessman, and I've seen him going up and down and all those things, and being frustrated and being happy, and then, throwing parties at big hotels, and at the same time, not having food to eat and all kind of stuff. So I've been through a lot when I was a kid. And, but somehow, I've tried a lot of jobs. Don't get me wrong. I've tried a lot of jobs in India, and I also tried to do jobs here. And somehow it just doesn't click with me. And I knew that somewhere within, I just cannot listen to somebody to tell me what to do. And I said, if I have to be on my own, then I have to learn the skills to be a proper entrepreneur. So, looking at my dad, how he was really successful, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I could learn also from his mistakes and also from things he was doing right. So I could implement that into the way I do my business. And again, as we progress, for me, I'm always learning. And it doesn't matter who it is, if he's better than me or worse than me, I always look to learn from somebody. And if it's somebody does a mistake, learning from the mistake is much cheaper for me than me doing the same mistake, right? So that's how I set myself up to be an entrepreneur.
Right. So you obviously decided that you just don't like listening to people or taking orders from people. That's why you decided to be. Right. Are you married?
No, I'm not married, but I do have a girlfriend. We've been on for quite a few years. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if you do get married, things will change. Just gonna give you a heads up.
I know, and honestly, Gary, that's why I want to make sure that I do everything right today. So when I get married, I don't have to get into that circle of, oh my God, I have to do it now.
Right.
Because doing it now is, in my opinion, is a little bit easier. I mean, honestly, everybody, it doesn't matter which position you are, if you're married, you have kids, if you're old, if you're young, everybody have their own set of issues that they have to deal with. And for everybody, their issues are the biggest, which is obvious. So for me, as I understand, before I get into that phase of marriage and kids and everything, I want to be financially free at that extent that doesn't matter if I work or not. I can spend time with my kid, with my family, any time of the day, any time of the year, whatever I want to do, I can do that. So.
Right. Now, how has your relationship to money changed now that, you're obviously doing much better? Like, do you notice a difference from when you first got here? And obviously, you needed the money to get things going and, obviously to put a roof over your head, and compared to where you are today, is there a change in that relationship?
There is. I'll tell you, there are 2 things that have changed. One is when I came here, obviously I was penny pinching because, I got to save every penny, and I got to make sure I'm able to pay my rent. I'm able to pay for food and everything. So obviously I'm not in that position anymore. So I can buy what I want when I want and all that kind of stuff, which is good. That's number 1. But number 2 is what the difference is. Before it was just in the mind that I thought that money is not good, that money is, that people who are rich, they are doing something wrong and all those things. But as soon as I understood that that's not true, money is just a byproduct anyway. So I never ran after money, but I made sure that I have enough money, and I made friends with it. I accept money as it is there for me, not as trying to take over me, but it's for me to be a better person. So, for me, it was very important to have that relationship to understand what money really is. And also, one thing that I learned when I was little, one of the guys who was also in business, he told me that, Ankur, doesn't matter what you do in life, but make sure that you don't run after money. Make sure that the money runs after you. And I could not understand what he said. I said, I don't know what is he talking about. But as I grew up, I understood what he really meant. That all you really need is not the money, it's the passion. Once you know your passion, once you're after it, the money is going to follow. And you know what? I can experience that right now, and I can tell you I'm an example of that.
Right.
So that's how it really works. Yeah.
And that really ties into the law of attraction, right? So it's not so much like I need the money. It's understanding that, okay, this is what I want to do. I know that I'm an attractive person, not physically, but because you've learned the skill sets, that now money will now come to you because people know who you are, you've built that brand, and that they want to come along on that journey with you, right?
Yes, that's true. It's so good that you tell me that, because when I was obviously when I left my job and everything, so I had a lot of time in my hand, honestly, and I was like choosing my directions, where should I go, what should I do, and all those things. And then at that time, I read the book that changed my life was Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first one, but then Think and Grow Rich. And that really changed my perception about a lot of things. And then, also Science of Getting Rich and all that. I read a lot of books at that time to put myself into the position where I am making sure that I'm going in the right direction and all that kind of stuff. So I also read, and then I also saw the video for The Secret. I'm not sure if you have seen that one.
I have.
The Law of Attraction. That is such an amazing thing, I can tell you that. And it really changed my perception. And I'm like, okay, that's how it really works. And, then I started testing it, because you got to test it to believe it. You have to do it. And then I saw that, it really works. And then for me, it was all about, the first thing that I really did that you know about. It basically, it happened because it was a win-win for everybody, not just for me making money, but I was more interested in how I can help that gentleman who was into the trouble, that the guy who was the seller, and how I can help the buyer at the same time so that he can also enjoy what I'm giving him. And in this transaction, it will make me happy, and also I will get paid. And that's when I was able to crack a deal. And that's when I understood, oh, that's how it really works. You got to be making sure that everybody's a winner and everybody's getting a piece of the pie. Yeah. And that's what is my motive for every deal that I do moving forward. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Okay, so you mentioned those three things. So The Secret, that was the first thing that I'd watched, which was great. It gave me a good fundamental understanding of how it worked, but I still didn't really fully understand it. But I'm like, okay, if this thing works, this is incredible. Then the next one I did was Rich Dad Poor Dad, where it's like, okay, understanding the finances and how it all works. And then the third one was Think and Grow Rich, which was really that was a mindset one. And when I talk to like 80% of the people that I know that are fairly successful, I find a lot of them have those three, which is pretty interesting. But the mindset is such an important piece. And I tell people that all the time. And I think they keep getting, and the ones that struggle or have a hard time, I say that they're always tied up with the fact that they don't have the money. So what are you listening to right now? So obviously I know those are the ones that you listened to at the beginning, but are there any particular podcasts right now that you're listening to, or any books that you're reading that you can share?
Well, the thing is, the books what I do is the book that I've told you about, I actually read them quite often, because the thing is, every time you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or every time you read the Think and Grow Rich, there's something new that you discover. And you know what? I just can't stop reading that. It's amazing. But I also, the one that are on my list right now are from, the guy, the monk who sold his Ferrari. That's the one that is on my desk right now. That's what I'm, reading. And, also the one from, this guy, the Wolf of Wall Street. So that one also, it's on my desk. So I'm reading those ones and trying to complete those.
Okay.
In fact, for the podcast, I actually listen to yours, which is amazing. I get a lot of information through that. And what I do is, it's amazing stuff. Now, what I do is for the podcast and everything, rather than listening to something and just going over, the way I do is I look at the topic that I'm looking for, and then I listen to podcasts related to those topics, because that's what my focus is. Let's say if I'm trying to learn more about rent to own, then I would do a search on the podcast for rent to own, and then I will go through all those podcasts. Let's say if there are 5 or 7, I'll go through them, and then I will derive my own understanding of what it is, and then how it should work for me, and how I can, incorporate into the business that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then, because for every other podcast that you listen to, with every other speaker who's giving you some more information, you get to know so much that it's not that someone else missed on it. It's just someone else has a different perspective of the same topic. Right. And that helps you to understand and look at the same situation from 10 different angles, which gives you such a big understanding of how soon and how easy you can solve that problem. And, other than you just know one way. Now you know 10 ways of solving the same problem. So.
And you know what I like the fact that you mentioned, because I do this all the time as well too, is going back and listening or reading the same material, because the second time I find that, when you do it the first time, maybe you're not in that position, you're not ready to actually understand that information. But when you go over the second or sometimes even a third time, I'm like, wow, this is all tying in together. You get like that huge aha moments, right? So that's actually a really, really good tip. Thanks for sharing that.
It is so true, because like in front of me, I have this thing, like the summary of the science of getting rich. And, if anything, I just always look it up and then I read it. And then, see, the whole idea for me is the way for my success, the secret honestly is that I create it. I don't compete with anybody. I create it. Whatever it is, I would create things that would help me to succeed. And because I'm creating it, I really don't have any competition because nobody knows about it anyway. So I'm the only one who is the person who is the architect, who is doing everything to make sure this thing actually comes out to be the best thing, right? And that's that's what I believe in, rather than competing. And that's why 99% of my deals, I don't buy from MLS. I hardly buy anything on MLS. It's all private deals. Because I create those deals. I create those strategies to make more money in the same deal. That's how actually I'm able to be successful in what I do.
Right. Actually, and you know what? I forgot to mention one other person, which was huge in the beginning, was, I don't know if you've heard of Jim Rohn, which is, I think, Tony Robbins' mentor. So that he was huge. And you know what the funny thing is too? I remember when I used to listen to him in the beginning, I think I've shared this before, is that, so when I was working at TD Bank and I would go into work and I'd listen to it on the way in, and then we'd go for lunch, and, my friends would jump in the car and I'd start the car up, and then he would actually come on. And and they'd look at me and like, you actually listen to this? Like, you believe this stuff? And I was actually embarrassed. I'm like, no, my wife was listening to this. I don't know. It wasn't. But it was crazy though, that whole mindset of, when you're in that corporate world to where I am now, like, 100% I listened to that stuff. That completely changed my whole entire way of looking at the world, where, you're learning from people that are where you want to be. So it was just crazy. Really, really, it's incredible the transformation, and even for yourself here in your story, the transformation where you just in 8 years? That's not a long time. I mean, those 8 years are going to happen anyways. So why not start that journey, right?
And you know what? The thing is, the reason is that, honestly speaking, like if you've seen that movie, Pursuit of Happiness, and Will Smith tells to his son that don't ever let anybody tell you can't do it. They tell you that because they can do it. So, and that's exactly what it is. You cannot let your dream die just because somebody says you can't do it. And that's what happens. And unfortunately, people are just trained to say that they don't even know what they're doing to other people, right? Just because they can do it, they will tell you, you cannot do it. Right. And honestly, I stay away from those people.
For sure. Because then they start to rub off on you, right? Hang out, you look at the 5 people that you hang out with the most, you start acting like them, you start talking like they do, right? So it's a good point. Listen, so we're kind of getting close to the end here, but what are 2 tips that you can share with us today that would allow our listeners to walk away and say, okay, I can implement this, and this is really going to change my life? Okay.
So the 2 things that I would say for your listeners is that if they are planning to get into real estate, let's say if they want to be a wholesaler or fixer or whatever they want to do, what they really need to do is they need to find somebody. It doesn't matter you, me, whoever. They need to find somebody who's really successful, who they can see themselves being like. And then they need to really get in touch with those people. They need to learn from them to make sure that at the end of the day, this is what it is. If you don't have your direction, you don't know where you're going, then it's going to take you a lot longer. Right? It's going to take you a lot longer to get there.
So mentorship. Mentorship is number one.
If you have a mentor in your life, the same distance that you're trying to cover, it will be done in 1/4 of that whole time that you would do it yourself. Plus, you will not make the mistakes that you could or you would in the time that you're going to take yourself. So that's very important. Get a mentor for yourself who can teach you and whom you believe is who can help you out in the way you want to succeed and where you want to be. So that's number one, get a mentor. And secondly, is taking action, right? That's the main thing. Like if you can have a mentor, you can have all the books, you can do whatever you want, but if you don't take action, really all of this thing what you do is worthless. It's not worth it. And honestly, you know what? I know a lot of people who read a lot of books as well. And this is what I tell them. I would rather look at the person who read just one chapter in the book and he did something about it rather than somebody who reads 10 books and does nothing about it. Right? So you got to make sure that you take action. That's number 2 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll wrap it up with saying that. So mentorship and then taking action, because money that is not used is useless, essentially. Right. I mean, it's when it's being used is when things really start to, and whether it's your money or whether it's your partner's money. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two great tips. So, and last, do you help others to be successful, and how do you do that?
Yeah, like I was saying before, now what I do is, because my focus for this year and moving forward is that I want to see other people successful, and what I'm doing in that regard, because this was always in my mind that, I want to help other people, I want to do this, and how should I do this? And I said, before I help anybody else, I need to be successful myself, so I can set a stage for others to say that, hey, if I can do this, you can do this, and you can do it maybe much better than me. That's what I want, right? So what I'm doing now is I have my seminars, I have my mastermind, and I have my mentoring program. That's what I provide now to people so that they can actually go out and they can learn from me and they can apply the strategy that I use in my business, and then they can be successful. I recently actually had my mastermind 2 days ago on this Saturday, and only 20 people. It was amazing turnout, and and I'm so happy that my mentees and all the other people who actually attended this mastermind, they took away so much, and they couldn't thank me enough for the whole day. But you know what? That's what it is at the end of the day. After me, it was almost 14 hours from, I would say, 7 o'clock in the morning all the way till 6 o'clock in the evening, and then I had a dinner party after. But technically, all this time that I spent with them, it was so much of education and it was so much of information that I gave them that they're so pumped to go out and do stuff. And that's what it's all about for me. So that's how I actually help them too. And if they need more information, they can go on my website, and there's a section for, all that information as well.
And what does something like that cost?
So right now my mentoring is around $10,000 plus HST. That's what I do, and it's a 6-month thing where we meet every 2 weeks. And then, I go over certain things. I teach them what to do, and, I'm pretty much an accountability partner. And then also, I also include a lot of other things apart from just that. They can call me, anytime if they have any issues. They can send me email. I give them my private number as well. And also, I do, it's a one-on-one coaching, it's a one-on-one mentoring. So, and then it's also a classroom setup where I would get, a few of them and then discuss a few things. And then also I would visit, houses or the properties that they are putting on the contract and all that to give them practical knowledge that, this is what you gotta do, this is how you do things and all that. So there's a lot more involved in this 6 months, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that they are successful. And the guarantee that I'm providing to them is, doesn't matter what you invest in your mentoring, 10, 15, 20, whatever you're going to do, you're going to end up making at least twice of that. And as you know, Gary, in real estate, making 10, 20 in one deal is a no-brainer. Anybody can do it, right? So for me, it's not about they double their money, but for me, it's more about for them to understand how to do things so they can keep doing it on their own, right? So I would rather, this is how I feel, rather than me teaching them how to play a song, I would teach them how to play piano, right? So they can play whatever song they want. And that's what it's really about, right? So they can be on their own and they can be successful. So, yeah.
Ankur, listen, I'm really happy that you were able to make it to the show today. What an incredible journey. from where you were when we first met. I didn't know that was one of the first deals that you actually did. I wish we'd have done it together,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you got it done. And listen, I've watched you from where you started to where you are today. It's incredible. It really is. And you know what? We'll have to have you come out and do a presentation to our group as well too. Hopefully sometime this year. So.
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate your time. So listen, how can people get a hold of you? Email, phone number, website, whatever you want to share.
So as you know, my name is actually, it's quite popular. I'm just kidding. Okay. But so what they have to do is they can just go on Google. They can put ankurpuri.com. That's my website. My full name, ANKURPURI.com. And they can also connect with me through an email, which is connect, CONNECT, @ankurpuri.com. And then once they go on my website, they have all the information. They can put in the form there. They have their phone number there for me, so they can reach me. As well, there's information about my deals. There's information about mentoring. There's a lot of information there. So I would encourage your viewers to go up there and then try to find more and see and connect with me that way for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Listen, Ankur, thanks again. I really appreciate your time, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Thank you so much, Gary, for having me on the show. I really appreciated it. I'm really grateful that I was able to enlighten and hopefully. And I'm positive that it's going to help your viewers to actually move to the next step and be more pumped to do more good stuff in real estate.
This is a good way to start 2019. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
All right, take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Gary Hibbert. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with your host on Instagram @Gary Hibbert. Until next time, stay mindful and remember, you don't have to be great to start. Just start, and you'll be on the path to being great.